It's 4 o'clock in Los Angeles, and you know what that means. It's time for another exciting episode of Taxi TV Live. This week, starring special guest Mr. Stephen Baird and Mr. Chuck Henry. Yeah, welcome, guys. Thanks for coming.
Love that music.
Yeah. I spent an entire Saturday trying to find something that would work for this. And it's really hard to program that thing, believe it or not. And finding, put it this way, if the batteries ever die, it'll take me a week to find that track again. And,
all right,
yeah,
wow.
It does scratching. All right, well, this episode of Taxi TV is just going to be amazing. Ooh, now I can't see me because I just made the chat window a little too big. Whoops, can't do that. Hang on, bear with me, folks. I'm trying to act like a professional. Not doing a very good imitation of one either. Okay, anyway, I've known Chuck longer than one of my kids, I think. Maybe two of my kids. And Stephen I met probably 3 or 4 years ago for the first time.
Oh wait, maybe. I think it was 08.
Yeah, okay, so 5 years ago. And these two guys have been incredibly successful, and I could not be more proud of them. They are the prototypes that I think everybody else should imitate or emulate, I guess is a better word for it. They are really, really successful. As you saw in the email I sent out, I don't want to disclose their actual incomes, but I think Chuck said it really well when he said, we make something like what congressmen make. And actually work for what they get. It was very, very apropos considering the way things have been going in DC lately. So I just am so excited that they're on the show with me today because they're going to tell you how they did it. And, you know, if you know me at all, you know that I really, truly, from the deepest part of my soul, want every taxi member to be able to, you know, maybe only make $500 a year, or a couple thousand a year, or maybe 20 grand a year, but to be able to earn a really nice fat income doing what you love and building a retirement. That's the cool part, is that you guys are building something that will continue to feed you income for years and years, and you could be 72 years old and still be doing this from home.
Yeah, absolutely.
So pretty damn cool. So Stephen actually lives in Florida, and I thought he was coming out here to visit Chuck to work all week.
We were going to do a few tracks, but I haven't gotten to that quite yet.
Yeah.
And I get an email this morning from Chuck on, we've just been hanging out. But I want to read you guys here. I'm going to read Chuck's email from this morning. Let's see. I asked Chuck, you know, were you making anything before you joined Taxi? You know, were you doing anything with film, TV, music? Were you making anything? And he wrote back, definitely, we weren't really making much of anything prior to being with Taxi. I would say that we've both learned and gained from Taxi. I'd both say that what we have both learned and gained from Taxi is way more than taking some course at a school or whatever. Also, in my earlier Taxi years, I was always trying to write stuff for the listings. That's how I originally did some hip-hop tracks, because there was a listing looking for hip-hop cues. I guess this was like 10 years ago or more. The tracks were forwarded, but nothing ever came of it. However, a few years later, an opportunity with MTV came up, and because I had done those tracks and had them in my arsenal, I was able to pretty much start my career in TV music with those. I never would have had them if it wasn't for Taxi. And of course, Steve and I met at the rally, the Taxi Road Rally, coming right up on November 7th through the 10th this year. And if you don't know what the Taxi Road Rally is, you need to find out. go to taxi.com, and somewhere in the middle of the homepage is a thing that says click here to learn more about the Road Rally. But it is 3.5 days of awesome stuff for musicians, 90 classes, one-to-one mentoring sessions, and panels in the grand ballroom. They're just amazing, if I can be a little immodest. Anyway, I've made some great friends from Taxi and have helped as many as I can by throwing them work or turning them onto my contacts. I believe in sharing the wealth. I mean, heck, I can only do so much music myself. I might as well help my talented friends out. As far as incomes, you could say that we make the same amount as members of Congress, laughing out loud. That would be kind of fitting for right now, and it certainly is. Let's see, you read the others, so I'm going to read this anyway. You know, probably we can talk about how just 6 or 7 years ago I could hardly pay the bills and even wondered if I was in the right career. And now I make this nice income, have 2 BMWs. I want to know why you have 2, because I mean most people can only drive 1 car at a time.
I have 1 in each state, 2. 1 here, 1 in Georgia.
Ah, okay, that explains it. Got it. All right. Just bought a $1 million condo in Hollywood, all from just doing music. Steve and I both just sit around and make music all day and are able to take off whenever we want. He's been out here for a week, and we've just been out farting around, having fun. Couldn't do that with a real job. I don't know, maybe some of that might be inspiring, Chuck said. So yes, Chuck, that is inspiring. And while we're on the subject of inspiring, I want to read you guys a letter that I got from Steve a year or so ago. I'm not going to choke up. A lot of times I read this letter seriously. I've read this letter sitting here on a weekend all by myself, and it's literally made me choke up. Hey, Michael, I hope you're well and that you're not too bothered with me contacting you at this address. Oh, yeah, I was so offended. We've corresponded a few times via this email, but if it bothers you at all, please take it out on Chuck, last name withheld, as he's the one who suggested I contact you here. I joined Taxi in September of 2007 with nothing more than Reason 2.5 and an old Roland keyboard from the 1980s. Until joining Taxi, I knew nothing about the film, TV, or advertising market. Actually, I was quite the newbie. Now, nearly 5 years later, I'm in my second year of making a full-time living writing for TV shows, commercials, promos, and movie trailers. Nearly every penny I've made can be traced back to Taxi, either directly through a Taxi Forward or indirectly through people I've met at the Taxi Road Rally, November 7th through the 10th, or on the Taxi Forum, which I want to talk about later. I'm really quite ecstatic with the way things have turned out. Not only am I making as much or more money than most of my friends, but I'm doing so via a career that I've dreamed about since I was a child. If it wasn't for Taxi, I wouldn't have a music career. I can't even imagine what my life would be like right now. So I'd just like to thank you for offering such a great service to aspiring musicians, composers, artists, and bands, not just for the opportunities offered through Taxi, but for creating such a great environment for musicians to learn and grow. You've definitely changed my life, and for that, I am forever grateful. So, wow. Look at that. I made it all the way through without shedding a tear. Man, it's... You guys don't know how much this stuff means to me. It's, you know, this was just an idea, and all I did was put one foot in front of the other and just never quit. And that's really, I think, analogous to what you guys have done.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's, you know, just, you're living your dream. I was just talking to the guys right before the show started, and I reminded Chuck that maybe a year or so after we first met, and we probably met at a Taxi Road Rally for the first time, my wife and I were walking through a Nordstrom department store in the mall in Woodland Hills, and I think it was Chuck that hollered to me, like, "Hey, Michael!" And I turned around, looking all over, where's this voice coming from? And I see this guy sitting at a grand piano underneath an escalator in the department store, and it was Chuck. And his day job, his main means of support at that time was playing piano at
playing
Nordstrom.
piano, giving piano lessons and playing for parties and stuff.
How many years ago was that?
Oh, God, like in the 90s.
Wow. And so things have gotten a little better since then?
I guess it's been slightly,
So, did either of you guys know that you could earn a living? Did you know what a production music library was, or how to get your music in film and TV, any of that stuff before you became Taxi members?
Heck no.
No, I had no idea about any of that stuff whatsoever.
What did you imagine that you wanted to do when you were? Let me start with Stephen first. Making sure I'm in frame. It's tough, you know. It's always tough with our little camera getting three of us in here. But so when you were a kid and you had these dreams of growing up and being in the industry, did you want to be a rock star or what did you want?
Basically.
Yeah.
In a rock band, yeah. I mean, at first it was a drum because that's what I started out playing, and then I started playing guitar, and so then I wanted to be a big rock guitar player in a big rock band, and actually I was in a band for a little while, and it was a good experience, but probably the best thing I got out of being in the band was realizing that I don't really like playing in bands.
What about it didn't you like?
You gotta all right, let's say you got one gig a week or whatever, you got 3 practices in the week, you gotta cart your stuff back and forth to practice and then to the gig, and then you don't start on time because, so-and-so's late or the sound guy's late or whatever. You gotta pack it all back up, and it's just, it was a bit of a hassle. So what I realized is I like just sitting down and writing music. That's what I really like to do. So.
Did you ever write any original tunes when you were in the band?
Yeah, but not really for the band. I mean, yeah, when I started playing guitar, that's what I started doing, just writing music on the guitar. That's actually how I started.
How old were you when you started
12. I was 12 when I started playing.
And you're what, like 17, 18 now?
yeah, there you go.
He does have, this guy will be like 65 years old and still look like he's 20. He's got one of those faces.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it's a good thing. And how about you, Chuck? What was your first, entree to the music industry? What did you do, and what were your aspirations?
Well, I started playing piano when I was 6. I'm taking piano lessons.
Wow.
Majored in music in college, and I played in bands. I joined Taxi originally. I wanted to be signed to a record deal doing smooth jazz, be a jazz star. Then gradually I found, started reading the listings. I'm like, it's just music library stuff. Let me try that. So that was probably around 2000. I started really reading the listings and trying all different kinds of music out. And
you actually got a record deal from a Taxi listing.
That was
right. And that
world
was
music. World music.
Oh, it's world music. I wanted to say it was New Age. Okay.
And then from that label tanked, but then he turned me on to the A&R guy at another label, which I'm signed to now, and it's doing kind of chill out world global electronica.
Yeah.
And it's doing really well.
Wow.
Just finished the second album for him.
Congratulations.
But that would never happen if not for Taxi.
Right. It's sometimes the Taxi stuff happens in these roundabout, circuitous ways, but it happens. I should also show you. I don't know if this will even actually show up now. It's too little on print. Anyway. Stephen, when he sent me that letter, sent me a list of the shows. And remember, this was over a year ago. And the list of shows in about a 12-point font was literally like, I want to say 22 inches long or something. And I just went, holy crap. And that's just one guy. I actually had lunch on Friday with the CEO of a very large production music library. And he asked me something about, are your guys getting placements? And I whipped out your email and your list, and he was looking at it and looking at it and looking at it, and I was just sitting there gloating and gloating and gloating. It was a good moment. So I want to play you guys some of their earliest music, because one of the things, and I want to go, after you've heard the music, I want to go back to this point. A lot of people walk up to me or send emails or phone calls, whatever, and they say, oh yeah, I've been aware of you guys for like a decade. I've been reading your ads. I've known about Taxi forever, and I've never joined. And whenever I ask them why they haven't joined, they almost to the person say, because I'm not ready yet. So I want to see how ready you guys were at the time. So Chuck, can you give me your CD? I want to plop it in the trusty CD player, and then after that we're gonna
The old stuff, right?
yeah, the old stuff. Thanks. Then after that I'm gonna play you some of Steve's stuff. So just start with track number 1.
Yeah, it's 2 of my first hip hop tracks I did, like 11 years ago. It's my first production music, I guess.
Okay.
Actually, Michael, do you know your Wi-Fi password?
Oh,
Put it in there.
Okay.
Just fell asleep, so and didn't remember the network, so you know.
all right. Here, let me roll this, and I'll do that. Let's see if I can do two things at once. Which, if you ask my wife and kids, they'll say, "Nope, he can't." I don't know if that's it. I'll get Aaron. Aaron, come on down. We need the password for the Wi-Fi. That was the whole thing?
Yeah, they were looking for 30-second hip hop cues.
Oh, okay.
Or something like that.
How many of them?
I'd put like 4, but you don't have to play them all.
Yeah. There it is. All right, one more. Somebody said they look like they're squirming listening to the old stuff.
His old stuff's good. You wait till you hear my old stuff.
All right. Where's my clapper?
Oh, God.
Oh, I hit the wrong button.
Yes.
Got the booze.
Yay. Okay, there we go. The right button. We never cease to impress around here. All right, now we're going to jack into Steve's computer and... Oh, they know it's your old stuff. Plus, they're going to hear the new stuff. So
Yeah,
this
but
is-
they hear Chuck's old stuff and it can still be used. You know, mine you will clearly hear.
Nah, I don't believe that.
All right, hit play and stop your complaining.
All right. So, all right. I guess let's do. We'll do. This is actually the first hip hop track I ever did.
Okay.
Back in 2005, and I
All
won't
right.
play the whole thing because it like kind of loops for the most part. It's kind of the same thing because I didn't know what I was doing. So, here we go.
Okay.
Kind of keep going and going and going and got
All
one
right.
going.
Okay, so
Alright.
plays another one.
All right, so here's a rock track
I like this
that
track.
did. Real old Reason drums. Not a very good amp sim.
That's right. When you start out, you had Reason 2.5 and a Roland keyboard from the 80s.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't suck. You know, it's not up to today's
Yeah,
standard,
yeah.
but it's not terrible.
And also, I was arranging, obviously, as it to be like a song for a band, you know, not for production music. Because this is before I joined Taxi, before I knew anything about, you know,
That world even existed.
Yeah, it even existed. Yeah. So
Uh,
we get to play the new stuff too, right? So,
Yeah.
All right, okay,
no,
good.
I'm sorry. It looks like we're almost out of time.
All right, cool. Oh,
Oh,
I think I accidentally just played some new stuff. Whoops, sorry.
Okay,
All right.
you want to jack in and play some new stuff?
All
I
right.
bought a co-written stuff. I don't know if you
Oh
want
yeah,
to-
yeah. Let's
All right,
do
yeah,
those
let's
too.
play that.
I thought that'd be good.
Okay, thanks.
I just picked stuff that's been used a lot that we co-wrote, so I thought that'd be it.
And you guys first met at a Taxi Road Rally, right?
Mhm.
Just hanging out in the bar or something?
Yeah, it was exactly that. Actually.
That's the place, you know. More deals happen in the lobby bar at the Rally Hotel than anywhere. All right, and next one is also a collaboration.
No, you don't have to play them all. Record number 4, that one gets used quite a bit.
All right, so I have a question about that cue in particular. How you say it gets used a lot on network shows of crime drama type stuff. What are some of the uses?
Just reality shows, a lot of hip hop based reality shows.
And what emotion were you starting out? What emotion did you want to portray when? First of all, where did it start? With you or with you?
I think that's when I started.
Yeah.
And I had actually sent it to him and forgot about it. He said, "Well, I found this little cue." And like, let's do that. I'm like, okay. And then
So how do you do it when you collaborate? Do you just send like a really basic sketch and then you added more layers?
we'll both just do like half a track or something. Say, "Well, here, Steve, finish it up," and he'll put guitars on it and stuff. Or he'll start one and I'll put piano and add more crap on it, whatever.
Yep.
More crap. I don't know if you guys saw that, but I held up the CD. It says "old crap."
Yeah.
So, when you guys do you collaborate on almost everything you do now, or do you guys do plenty of stuff separately and
yeah.
collaborate on like 10 or 20% of what you do?
I don't even, probably not even 10 or 20%. Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
but we mostly do our own thing, and then we'll do like a collection of like 10 every now and then.
Yeah.
So I think we got, what do we have? Probably maybe 60 or so.
60, yeah.
60 or so collaborations out of like however many thousands that we have combined, I guess.
Wow.
Whatever it is.
Tell them how many tracks you each have.
I'm not really sure. I think it's hard for me to keep up, but I think it's in the 1,000 range.
Okay.
Somewhere between, let's say, 900 and 1,100, something like that.
And you've done that many tracks in essentially 5 years.
Pretty much, yeah. Well, yeah. This. I've started my 7th year. I consider when I joined Taxi, which was in September of 2007. Like when I actually started with
Right.
production music, and so I've just started my 7th year. So yeah, it's about 6 years. That's what I've done.
Wow.
In 6 years, yeah.
And how about you, Chuck? Any idea how many tracks
No.
you've got?
No clue. I don't
Thanks.
know.
It's been great having you on the show.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe 1,500. Something.
Yeah. And when you guys are working separately, what's your work schedule like? First of all, do you work pretty much every day at Just Music all day? Steve?
Yes. Well, it also kind of depends on, obviously I take weeks off, like this week.
Yeah.
But yeah, usually I try to do at least 3 tracks a week,
Okay.
Which I think is a pretty good pace. You don't, like I work on music every day, but I don't like push myself to make sure that I finish one a day, because I can tell you right now that you'll kind of burn yourself out if you do that. I don't care how much you like what you're doing.
Right.
If you're, like, let me see if I can do 20 tracks this week or whatever. First of all, the quality I think will kind of drop, and if the quality's not up there, it doesn't matter how many tracks you have. And then second of all, you'll just get tired. You'll kind of wear yourself out. So I usually, my goal is about finish 3. If I'm really busy with certain projects, it'll be more than that. But yeah, I always shoot for about 3 a week.
That seems reasonable and, and productive. How about you, Chuck?
Yeah, about 3 or 4 a week. And like I say, yeah, it's work, but our work is play. I mean, we get to sit at home and write music, and what a lot of people just dream of doing that. It's more like a hobby, I guess, sometimes, but we get to do it all
Pretty
the time.
lucrative hobby.
So yeah, I mean, it's
now.
depending on the week. I mean, some weeks, like the past few weeks, I've not really done much of anything. I've been like traveling and doing this, that, and the other, but
I don't know when he works actually.
I gotta get back to it.
Well, it's like our mutual friend Matt Hurt. Like it seems like I hear from him 3 times a year when he sends out the email. I'll be in the mountains and unavailable for the next week. Goes totally off the grid. So, what was the aha moment for you, Steve, when you said, "Okay, this is what I want to do, and I think I can earn a real living doing it"? Do you remember when that was and how it happened?
I guess it'd be 2 different. I mean, like just the aha moment of this is what I want to do. Like I always knew I wanted to, do music for a living, but I wasn't really sure how I would go about doing that. And then, kind of the other aha moment when I could actually make a living at it kind of came in stages. I think the first one was when I signed up for Taxi and kind of saw the videos like of Matt Hurt and stuff. And then the real big one was probably the first rally that I went to actually, and I was actually able to see and talk with people. Face to face that were doing it, and it didn't seem so because whenever you're like I live in Jacksonville, and if you're outside of Los Angeles, it doesn't seem very realistic, because nobody else is doing that, and when you tell people this is what you want to do, they're kind of like.
Your friends make fun of you.
Yeah, I got made fun of a lot actually. Like, why don't you just get a job at a bank or whatever? And I'm like. Well, why don't I just throw myself off a bridge? That sounds like a good idea too, right? I mean, I didn't want to do that, So, but so that was really, really good to kind of come to the rally and kind of be in that environment around people that not just people that are already doing it, but also people who are trying to do it. At all different levels. From beginning like I was, to kind of middle of the road to Matt Hurt and Chuck Henry status.
Yeah.
Show up, in private jets to the Westin.
Yes, I've been on Chuck's private jet many, many times. How about you, Chuck? What was the aha moment where you went, okay, I can earn a real living, like a real living doing film and TV stuff?
I guess when the checks got big enough that I was like, okay, I can do this and not have to worry about anything anymore, like finances or getting a real job or whatever. But it was also at the rallies and just learning from what other people who were doing that and from learning at the classes and seminars.
Do you still find that even though both of you guys are experienced now, that the rally still has value for you? Do you bother going to the panels or the classes or anything? Or?
I do go. Yeah, I still go to the panels. I do more. The more rallies I go to, the more I end up just kind of networking around with different people and talk with my friends that I don't get to see a whole lot because they live in Los Angeles. But it definitely still has value. Like this last one, actually, interesting story, I guess. I met Steve Collum, another Taxi member. Now he is from Australia. Lives in Jacksonville, and then we met in Los Angeles. I thought it was really kind of...
I didn't know he lives in Jacksonville.
He lives in Jacksonville, yeah. He lives... Yeah,
wow.
He lives in Jacksonville, just like me. And so we met each other there, and, just a couple months... There's an advertising agency that I work with, and a couple months later, it was January, right at the beginning of January, he calls up, he's like, hey, Steve, I'm working on this pitch or whatever, and we need this song that's kind of like this. And I was like, you know what? Who would be perfect for that is Steve Collum. And I didn't have anybody who could pull this off until I met him. Like so I might have not been able to do the gig if I didn't go to that rally. So we did we did the commercial. We actually it didn't work out for that pitch, but it worked out for another commercial that he was working on.
Yeah.
So we got paid, and I do believe that it paid for both of our entire trip to the rally, and we've been doing some other collaborations, and it'll obviously it's all profit from there. So yeah, that just meeting him right there, that paid for my trip to the rally and his, and so there's definitely still value in going there. It's a soft networking thing too. You have to understand. It's not like don't go there thinking, okay, I'm gonna go and the guy in the black Escalator limo is gonna pull up and be like, I'm gonna sign you, and then you're a millionaire all of a sudden. That's not the way it works really. It's kind of all very small little things, and soft networking, I guess is what I call it. Where
I like the fact that you even brought that up, because I think a lot of people come armed with 20 CDs. And they're usually labeled incorrectly. A lot of people will write stuff with a Sharpie. They generally won't write old crap on there. But they'll write stuff with a Sharpie on the CD and then put it in a jewel box with a business card and then hand it out to everybody they can. When really it's more like building friendships than it is, hey man,
Yes.
check out my stuff, right? Because
Absolutely.
I think that's a turnoff when people are too forward. It's kind of like a guy asking a girl out, walking right up and go, hey, you're really cute. You want to go out on a date because I've got a really nice car?
Yeah.
You know, versus getting to know each other and finding
Yeah.
the mutual attraction, I guess. Chuck, you have the advantage of living in LA, but I think that the same has happened for you, networking with people outside of LA at the
Okay.
rally, right?
Definitely.
It's like you now have collaborators all over, even though you live here, because so many people think that, oh, those guys that live in LA have a tremendous advantage because you know they obviously go to fabulous industry parties all the time, and he's laughing. It's true. Everybody thinks that if you live in LA that you're gonna that you automatically like get invited to industry parties, and there's just so many opportunities to meet people. I'm in the industry, and I think I meet more people through personal referrals than I do in
Mhm.
party or event situations.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Um, okay, let's see. Let me find another question here. Do you guys ever do stuff with vocals on it?
I do.
He's doing more. I've done some, but he's doing more of it than I am now.
And are you seeing the industry? This is a long question. Bear with me, everybody. A lot of the libraries it appears that a lot of libraries are looking for less and less instrumental stuff. And what I get told from the people at the libraries is we've got tons of instrumental stuff. We've got tons of instrumental guys who make instrumental stuff. And what we really need now are songs, because we've had this long period of building instrumental stuff up over the years, and we've got our regular crew of guys that are our go-to guys. So rather than hitting up Taxi for instrumental stuff, they'll hit us up for songs. Are you finding that as somebody who produces songs with vocals that that's opening up a whole other avenue for you?
It's opened up a whole other avenue of money for me. But I mean, that's kind of what I'm hoping. Actually, I've kind of thought that too. I thought, you know, if I can get together a good collection of vocal songs, you know, like really good sounding current, you know, not just good for film and TV, but stuff that like you would like want to listen to. Maybe, I don't know. Like I thought maybe, you know, that'll kind of, you know, be a kind of a good angle to kind of get in with maybe some different companies or music supervisors or whatever. So yeah, I think it's a good thing to do some vocal songs. You know, if it's something you're good at, don't just think, oh, okay, I want to do some vocal songs, so I'm going to do hip hop, I'm going to do pop, I'm going to do country, I'm going to do rock, whatever. Like, you can't do all that stuff and don't do it. Just, you know, find, you know, you a good vocalist or two that are really good at doing one thing, and then just try to build a nice little catalog and send them out to libraries and make some money, hopefully.
I had a gentleman who is a very, very talented Taxi member who I think is going to really break through this year. And he does stuff that's probably 90% with vocals. And I called him the other day because we're putting out a compilation to a bunch of supervisors. And we wanted to include one of his songs on it. And he had another Taxi member playing a part, banjo or fiddle or mandolin or something. And I said, before we send it out, I want to make sure that, you know, this is clear and that nothing's going to come out of the woodwork. Did you happen to get a work for hire from the person who did that other instrument? He goes, oh no, he's a friend of mine. I met him through Taxi, met him on the forum as a matter of fact, and do I need that? And I said, well, yeah, because the supervisor's not going to put it in a major motion picture or a TV show if it doesn't have that. So do both of you guys take care of business like that? You know, if Chuck, if you work with another instrumentalist, do you get a work for hire from them? Or do you wait until somebody says, I want to use it, and then call them up frantically saying, I need you to sign off on this? How does that play out?
Well, the ones that I use, luckily I have some really talented friends, so I just pay them for the session fee, and they play on it, and that's.
And nobody's
how I-
ever asked you
no.
for a work for hire?
No,
Wow.
but they're really good friends of mine.
Yeah,
And they love to
but
play.
that's what this guy said to me the other day, and I said they could be a great friend. I don't think they're going to do
Mhm.
anything malicious, but I'm surprised because the supervisors. As a matter of fact, when I had lunch with the library owner on Friday, and he asked me this very question, he said, "What about your members who collaborate? Do they get work for hires on everything they do?" And I said, you know, a lot of them are pretty well educated at this point, and I'm sure they do. And you as the library owner, if you're, that's kind of your responsibility. We're not going to do all the pre-clearance for you. That's how you earn your money as a library. And he was very direct about that. He said, look, we're not going to take anything unless I've got clear, work for hires on every song. How much have you guys learned about the business just by being in the taxi community? I know that you guys are both fans of the forum and the rally and the whole community that exists around taxi. I think it was Chuck that said earlier, in his letter, I've learned more about the industry, or maybe meaning both of you guys have learned more about the industry by being around the community and learning from each other than you would by going to school for it. Is that still true even at this stage of your careers?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
You guys get really short answers.
Yeah. That's
Elaborate.
how. Oh, yeah. Well, if you want to, whether it's the music industry or anything else, the way you learn about the business is you surround yourself with other people in the business, and so that's kind of what taxi is. There's a lot of people, not just you a lot of different members, that are on every single level, place in their career, whatever you're from, new, just starting out to kind of middle, whatever. And you go on the forums, you go to the rally, and you talk to these people, and you learn a lot of stuff from them. You learn not only about how to compose, but you learn the business side of things. I can tell you right now, if you go to the rally, you'll hear stuff that you're not going to hear on a forum, like even the taxi forums, because you'll hear stuff. People say stuff more than they want to put it in writing, maybe,
Interesting.
So, I'm not saying that there's like some kind of like weird secrets or whatever out there, whatever, that people don't want, but you're just, you'll just, if you're face to face with people, you're just going to learn more. So,
and like I was telling you today, that guy dude called me today looking for an internship. I'm like, I don't have anybody. He said, well, I want to learn post-production and get into that, I said, dude, join taxi. Make sure you go to the rally in November. You'll learn more from that than any kind of internship or taking classes or whatever. So hope you'll do it.
How do you learn about composing from talking to other composers? How do you explain?
Well, you learn the business, which is just as important as the music itself.
But obviously you learn stuff about composing as well. Maybe just to throw an example out, like the first thing you played that was just one continuous, like repetitive loop. And then you played some of the newer stuff, which actually was very simple. It was more about creating a mood and an atmosphere than it was about showing off how strong you are as composers. Do you have to fight that urge to show what a musical genius you are?
I don't, because I don't care about that and never have, to be honest. For me, it's kind of like, my whenever I sit down, usually, sometimes it depends on what I'm doing. If I'm doing like a tension track with Chuck, or if I do it by myself, then I think kind of mood, I think about a scene. But like, let's say if I'm doing a rock track or something, first thing I'm thinking of is this needs to sound cool. And something that somebody wants to listen to. Like if it doesn't sound like something somebody wants to listen to, because even though we're not doing hit songs, we're doing library music. If you got the editor's got all these tracks, and they're clicking through. Which one do you think that they're more likely to grab? The one that sounds cool and that they like, So that's what I always think. I'm not trying to show, hey, look what a great guitar player. I can play cool guitar licks, but nobody wants to hear that. And it's not good for the scene either. So
fit the scene.
My whole goal is to just write something that just sounds good, basically. So I don't ever have to fight that urge at all, like whatsoever. Even if I did have that urge, I don't think I could do it, because really I'm not that good of a composer. I'm no Mozart here. You know what I'm saying? Like, so whether I have the urge or not, it doesn't matter. It's nothing genius is coming out of this brain. That's for sure. It's all simple stuff.
Chuck, I know you're extremely smart.
Yeah. But no, I'm not dumb. I'm not trying to say I'm dumb.
He's anything but dumb.
But he is definitely much more of a composer type, for sure. He's trained.
Yeah. Do you have to fight the urge to play more complicated stuff?
Yeah, I used to they say call the jazz police in, because I'm sneaking in jazz chords in there, which you can't do. But no, I know what is needed for TV shows now. I've been doing it for a while, so I enjoy doing it all. And I can open up my chops, I guess, like doing orchestral stuff.
Yeah.
But just the basic, reality show stuff. I enjoy doing it, and I know it it needs to be, so I don't really worry about having to tone myself down.
How much attention do you pay when you're watching TV? Are you afflicted like I am, and my poor wife is often the victim of being in bed next to me, or on the couch next to me, or in a movie theater next to me, and I'm going, check out that cue. Like, I'm a huge fan of the show Homeland, and we were watching the episode last night. I'm going, check that out. There's also a new show called Masters of Sex about Masters and Johnson, the people who did the big sex study in the late 50s. And I think Liz Gallagher's the music soup on it. And there's some really interesting stuff. I mean, the whole show is very period. And yet some of the music has like a hip hop under, bed to it. But yet it sounds like period music with a hip hop beat laid under it. Mm-hmm. And even though the cars are authentic, the costuming's authentic, the hallway in the hospital, everything about that show makes you feel like you've been transported back to 1958, and then the music will have a hip-hop track. And that never would have happened 5 years ago, where they could be incongruous like that and slip something with a modern edge into the show. Are you guys as guilty as I am of, you lose track of what's going on in the show?
Well, I have to listen to see what's being used. So I can emulate that, because I mean, if that's what's being used, that's what they're looking for now. So I get some ideas to what kind of songs they're using.
Do you ever feel like Taxi members will say to me, "Oh, I hate today's music. I hate the crap that's on the radio." It's a big day for the word crap on the show. They asked me before we started, "Do we have to watch our language?" Yeah, we could have youngsters watching the show, so we should behave ourselves. But people will say to me, "I hate what's on radio today. I think the music sucks today." Generally speaking, they're people in their late 40s to early 60s, and they kind of lived through the golden age of classic rock, when I don't think anybody would argue that was a great period of music. And they think that the music that's out there today sucks. They hate hip-hop, for instance. Do you ever feel like you're prostituting yourselves or doing something that's against what's in your heart? Or, how do you feel about that?
I love this question, because I've been asked by not just musicians, but just random people that I'll meet at the bar, and I say, look, I love writing music, all kinds of music, no matter what it is, because I like kind of figuring stuff out. Like even if it's something I don't like to listen to, like I'm not personally a huge contemporary country fan, but I just wrote some country stuff for a library, and I like doing it. It was fun. I like figuring it out. And so I say, I mean, how can I think that I feel like I'm prostituting myself when I'm liking what I'm doing? I'm like, you got to do something for work. I mean, do you feel like you're prostituting yourself whenever you're, working as a waitress at the restaurant, or you're in the cubicle, playing Tetris all day, waiting for the boss to walk by to shuffle some papers around like you're working?
So that's what the staff is doing.
Yeah. So, I mean, no, of course not. No, I mean, I like what I work on my time, do what I want, when I want, basically, and... Yeah, I like what I do. So
I agree. That's exactly how I feel.
Absolutely. Don't
and like one day you might work on some dramedy, next day you can do some hip hop, next day you do whatever. It keeps, because doing TV music you have to do a whole wide variety of genres. So
if you start out with one genre, I remember that Steve found very early on that you could do hip hop, I think, and you were surprised by that. It's like, wow, I can do that.
Yeah, because I wasn't a hip hop person really.
Yeah,
I was a rock guy.
Here,
yeah. So how do you guys learn those other genres? Do you watch TV and listen to the tracks to learn the genre, or do you go on YouTube and watch what
TV, radio, YouTube, wherever it's being played, just listen.
Yeah, anything and everything.
Do you take notes? Do you sit down and write down what the beats are laid out like, or
take mental notes, but I don't write.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. Yeah, mental notes. I'll listen to it and I'll say, okay, first thing I'll do is I'll think, okay, what instruments are they using, and then I'll try to load those up. And then I just think, okay, what kind of melodies are they doing with what instruments, and how is it working? And then I look at how does it, build, is it kind of like an A-B type of thing, or does it do this kind of arc thing or whatever? And, do they have different stops, that's kind of what I do. And then I just kind of slowly kind of build it up and kind of work on it until it, it sounds comparable to whatever it is that I'm listening to, and kind of modeling.
Or I might say, okay, what do I want to do today? I'll put a TV show on that's popular and just listen for a while. The cue will come on there I like, I'm like, oh, I'll do one of those. All right, turn off.
Yeah, I've done that too.
I wish I were I wish I was a good musician, because I hear I hear music on shows all the time and go, wow, if I had a studio and I was good enough, I would sit down and make 10 things that sound like that. Not rip off the melody, but just sound like they would go on a CD with that, because clearly that's the style that gets used on TV. I don't know if you guys, Chuck's been around long enough. Remember years ago, I had a flyer, I think it actually still goes out, that says, the answer is staring you in the face, meaning your TV. Every day you watch TV, and all you really need to do is watch more TV.
Yeah.
It's there. The answer is right there in front of you every day. Let's see. Talked about staying current. We talked about the rally. Let's talk about the forum for a minute. For those of you who don't know, Taxi does have a forum. It's at forums.taxi.com. And you guys have heard me say it on the show 100 times. I'm going to say it 101. There is a combination of things you can do that will almost guarantee success. It'll certainly improve your odds dramatically, which is... There we go. Go on the forums, and don't charge right into the forum like a bull in a china shop going, hey everybody, check out my music. Contribute to the forum, contribute to the community, maybe recommend a microphone you tried, or ask a question. Don't just come, right out of the gate and say, here's my music, isn't it great? I know that both of you guys have spent a fair amount of time in the peer-to-peer section. Tell them what the peer-to-peer section is and how to contribute to that and how to benefit from it. Or you haven't spent a lot of time.
No. I actually, talking about going from where I did kind of more of a, just kind of doing a loop over and over again, and then kind of actually one of the first, I think maybe it was the first person I collaborated with was actually Cisco.
Oh, okay.
And a big thing that I learned from him whenever we were collaborating on some hip hop and some kind of hip hop, urban pop type stuff. And a big thing that I learned from him was, arranging stuff for film and TV. Because like when you arrange when you arrange a hip hop song, or a rock song for that matter, or whatever, for film and TV, it's really different than if you're arranging it for a song. Like actually so much to the point where like when I sit down to write, I'm like, okay, am I going to work on something that's going to be a song today, or am I going to work on something that's going to be a cue?
Okay.
Because with a
what
song,
are the differences?
Well, a song is like it starts and you kind of have a quick little intro or something catchy in your hook or whatever, and then it's more or less kind of like a verse chorus thing with a bridge. There might be some changes in there, but with like for film and TV, what you kind of want to do is you want to start it the same way. You want to have something that catches the ear. Quickly get to the point. Don't do a minute long intro of like that one on the spear pad, like that or whatever. So, you start it off really quick, but then, let's say you got your hook, and then maybe you repeat it, but then maybe you add something or whatever. And then you have, some edit points where, like, maybe, where you kind of come to, like a almost, it sounds almost like an ending, like a stinger or whatever in the middle. Yeah. And then, when you do your you have maybe a section where it's kind of sparse, where it's maybe just mostly drum and bass. So, if they can kind of loop that for dialogue if they want. Then I slowly build it up. And basically the whole point is you want it to not just do the same thing over and over because you don't have a vocal to listen to that keeps your interest. So you have to keep their interest and keep it useful by continually developing the track. That doesn't mean you have to go crazy, like you don't
nothing you played me
with,
nothing you guys played me
there could be some differences in the sections. With edit points you got to have a hard ending so that he doesn't either do like 15-second edits, 30-second edits, all that, because everything I do they edit themselves for the shows.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And they just, there's no need for it because they don't need to be inundated with so many tracks. Just give them the full track.
So they don't want a 2-second, 5-second, 10-second, 15, 30, and a 60 and a 2 minute.
And don't modulate the song. It's got to end on the same key you start with.
Do you generally go for buttoned endings?
You have to.
Okay.
But they won't use it if it has a fade out. They'll just laugh at you. So really, dude.
No fades.
Talk about edit points. For people who are new to this and don't understand what an edit point is, what function does the edit point play in the overall picture? No pun intended. And how do you create an edit point?
It sounds like a natural stop in a song, and that way they can use that and edit right there. So you actually could have like maybe shoot 3 or 4 cues in just one track.
Okay.
It makes it easier for the editors, supervisors, so you'll get a lot more usage out of your music if you have those.
Do they tend to come back to you guys over and over because they like what you do and they see that you understand what they need, and so after the intro's been made, hi, how you doing? Oh, I love that piece you sent me. What else do you have? Do you guys get a lot of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I get a lot of repeat business. Like the ad agency I work with, I think it comes back to me a lot because every time I come up with a cool, catchy track for their commercial, and also really easy to work with. That's another thing. Be easy to work with. Like they had this most of the time. Everything I've done for them for the most part has been pretty much good to go. Maybe just a couple little tweaks or whatever. But there's this one that was just insane. Like there were so many edits and it was just terrible. But the thing was I never once kind of complained or said, "Oh, come on, guys."
Right.
I was like, "Okay, yeah, sure, whatever it is, let's do it." So don't be that way. Don't get too emotionally attached with your track, because you have to realize that when if you're writing music for a hobby art, yeah, you're writing it for yourself. You do whatever you want. Who cares? But if you're writing like professionally, I think that's a big difference between amateur and professionals. When you're writing professionally, you are writing with somebody else in mind, not necessarily, and it doesn't have to be necessarily like a client, like a your advertising agency or a library or music supervisor or whatever. But it can be just like the listening public. Like if you're writing, like if you're in a band or whatever, you're doing and you're writing for the because you want to have a record deal and sell records, whatever. You're writing for the people out there, so not, don't be so selfish, basically. It's not just about you, so just realize that, that the important thing is, the end product, and that, it's doing what it should be doing, whether it's, kind of, touching the listener right here, whatever, or, selling some fruity drinks, whatever.
And as far as getting calls, like we had started this dubstep tension stuff, and we'd only finished one. And the supervisor at the challenge called me and said, "Is that song dubbed out you guys did? Got any more of that?" I'm like, "Yeah, they're not finished, but I'll get them to you." So I finished like 5 or 6 more of them and sent them off to them. So that does happen. They'll call, be like, "We like this type of song you do here," and they'll ask for more of it. I always like those calls.
Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't want to get called directly from a supervisor? And you're getting 100% of the money on those things. So let's talk about the business of the business. Fees have dropped dramatically in the last couple of years, the last few years. As I mentioned on the show before, I've said to my wife sometimes I feel guilty or responsible because Taxi was pretty much the first entity that introduced independent, unsigned, homebound, home studio musicians to the professional industry. And my wife said, "Honey, it would have happened with you or without you." And her point was the technology made it so that everybody potentially could crank music out. The old days, you had to go to a $300 an hour studio and do it. So with this glut of music that's out there, and music supervisors have become the new, stars. They're like A&R people used to be. And everybody wants to get to them, and now they're inundated. But when I talk privately with supervisors, they're worried that, there's a bunch of great music out there, but I can't risk working with people that don't know about the business side of things, because I don't want somebody to put an illegal sample in a song and I slip it into a movie and the guy gets a check for $6,000, and then a year later when the movie comes out, somebody goes, "Whoa, whoa, 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 that's my drum loop in there." So how do you learn that businessy stuff?
Chuck, you're more of a business guy than me, I guess.
Well, reading, obviously going to the Taxi and learning from the rally and the classes, and just, I don't know. Just talking to people, meeting people, all a combination of. I'm not really sure. I've never really thought about that. It's just. I mean, it
You're
takes
just
a while.
learning
Yeah, I
it
mean,
as
it's
you
very
go
important
along,
to learn.
type of thing.
Yeah.
And it takes a while.
It is. It's just, networking with people and talking with people and kind of, saying like, I'll talk with somebody and say, "Hey, this is something I found out about," and then they're like, "Oh yeah, well I heard from somebody like that," or whatever. And then you just start kind of putting things together, and you slowly over time just kind of learn learn business stuff.
But you can have great music, but if you don't know the business part, then that's still not gonna.
Yeah, you can work. Yeah, I always say it's better to work smart than to work hard because,
Yeah.
I mean, you can work as hard as you want, but if you're working dumb, it's not going to pay off.
Right, you're
So,
just like a
yeah,
hamster on a
Hamster on a
treadmill.
wheel, yeah.
How do you know which information is good information versus information that's not? When I go on some of the audio engineering forums and I read some of the advice that people are giving out, even though I'm a very old school engineer, I know enough about the physics of sound and about engineering in general that I can see they're just parroting something that they heard somebody else say, and they're giving out bad information. How do you know when you're getting good info versus bad info?
that's a good question.
Yeah.
Now I know just because I know more about the business, and now I can read something like, you don't know what you're talking about, dude. That's not the, but whenever
Yeah.
you're new, it's a totally different thing. The only thing I can say is, you have to kind of every claim, like let's say you see something or whatever, and you're thinking, okay, maybe there's some legitimacy to that. You need to well, first of all, figure out who's saying it. What's their experience level, if you can figure that out, and then double check it with other sources. I mean, just like there's things in every industry, this one too, where you have heavy hitters on both sides of an issue or whatever, and then you kind of sometimes you have to kind of. Sometimes maybe there's not like a good or bad information. Maybe they're both, right in a way or whatever. You just have to kind of pick which one you agree with more. But yeah, you just have to. You kind of have to do your own research, just like with anything. Just like you don't go read like an article on the like in a newspaper or something and be like, oh yeah, that is 100% fact right there.
Because
you know
I
what I'm
saw it
saying?
in print, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was on the internet.
Yeah, right.
Everything's true.
Yeah. So yeah.
I
so,
love that commercial where the girl says, "I've got a date with the guy."
Persian model. Or something.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
It's like bonjour.
I love that spot. Okay, well, this is a natural segue. I'm going to go warm it up because it's like 32 degrees in here. Why don't you guys start talking about the difference between exclusive and non-exclusive deals with libraries? While I go fix the air conditioning.
You're going to convincently leave
I'll be
for
right
this
back.
part of the
I promise.
conversation.
Well, it's a really fascinating thing. A lot of people want to know about it. So, Chuck, why don't you give a basic explanation of what exclusive means versus non-exclusive?
Exclusive libraries, basically you're signing your song to the library, usually in perpetuity, and they own the copyright and they own the song, and you cannot do anything else with that.
Okay,
Nice.
tell them what perpetuity means, because that word scares the crap. There's that word again.
I mean, from here
people
on
are
out.
scared to death of perpetuity. You mean they get my song forever?
Yeah. Sometimes there's reversion clauses. If they don't do anything with it, you'll get it back within a certain, amount of time.
Right, usually like
Yeah.
3 years, maybe
3 to 5
5
years,
years.
yeah.
I think reversion clauses are crap. The word of the day.
Yeah.
Sorry, here's the reason why. I'll tell you
Okay.
why I don't like reversion clauses. Okay, I feel like it's something just to make a composer feel better for signing a deal that maybe isn't all that great. Because let's say you got like a 3-year reversion clause. Most of the time, if you really read them carefully, there's no threshold, right? So you can go and they can license your track for $20 to Bob's Bagels or whatever in that 3-year period. And guess
Right.
what?
Yeah.
There goes your reversion. And that's all the money you make. All right, that's number one. Number two, let's say you do this 20-track exclusive collection of, like, say, dubstep, right? And they've got like a 3-year reversion clause. So you're like, oh well, if they don't, I'll give it to them exclusively, but if it doesn't get used, then I get it back. So let's say they don't use it. All right, 3 years later, you get all your dubstep tracks back. Well, guess what? 3 years later, nobody cares about dubstep anymore, right? And and I mean, maybe they will, maybe they
Great
won't. I don't
point.
know, but it's especially with the
Or
really
even the
cutting
style
edge.
of dubstep.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It
the
might not
very-
be contemporary enough.
Yeah, or even like certain pop stuff, like very contemporary, music. It's going to have a longer lifespan, I think, in the production music world, obviously than it would in the hit song world. But 3 to 5 years can be a long time, even in the production music world. And if I mean, great, you got your 20 tracks back, awesome. What are you going to do with them? Nothing.
But you just lost income
Yeah,
on those tracks
yeah.
for those 3 years. You could have been making money on them.
Yeah. So
And they just sat there.
So would you never sign a deal? I mean, do you guys, Matt Hurt once said to me, I will sign an exclusive deal for some stuff, a non-exclusive deal for
Yeah.
other stuff. Do you guys find that balance to
Exactly.
be something that works well
Yes.
for you?
yeah, I'll sign exclusive deals, but I mean, I I don't just willy-nilly throw it to them and say, here it is for free. You can have my copyright in perpetuity for no money up front, for free, to do whatever with, and I'm just going to trust that, I'm going to make my money back. I look at the company, I look at what kind of placements they're getting, because there's certain, after you've been doing it for a little while, you know which networks are doing gratis deals or maybe blanket deals, right? And
we should talk about what those are.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. Yeah, for sure. And so I'm like, all right, are they going to give me syncs? If the answer is no, I'm definitely not signing it to them exclusively in perpetuity with no money up front. Now, if they want to pay me money up front, okay, even if it's just like $100, that's fine. $100 advance, that's fine. And then I look at their clients care about exclusive and non-exclusive, because some do and some don't. Like, I get actually calls to do, like, I've gotten a couple calls from exercise videos, and they're kind of more concerned with price. I'm like, well, one way we can keep the price down is we can do it non-exclusively, and that way I can get paid for the work, but then I can also make money off it on TV shows. And they're like, that's fine, we don't care if we have it exclusively. So there's some that care, and so there's some that don't. And so you need to be, I think, mindful of that. And that's one thing you can learn by coming to the rallies. You can know which networks are doing blanket deals, and what companies, or not blanket deals, but gratis deals, and which companies are mostly doing gratis. And there's nothing, I won't say there's nothing wrong. Okay.
Gratis means free.
Gratis means free.
They take your music for free, and you're saying that you may want to go for that free deal because you know that they're going to put it in a show, in an episode, maybe 3 times, and that episode's going to air 4 times a day, and it's going to be syndicated around the world, so you're going to make a ton of money on the back end.
Yeah, that's the whole thing with gratis deals, is that it's a back end situation. A blanket deal is they pay the library, X amount of dollars to use, for
like maybe 10 grand and all you can eat.
Maybe, yeah. who knows? I don't know. I'm not at that level of the food chain yet, so I don't know what the actual numbers are. But they pay a fee, and usually, as far as a composer is concerned, whether it's blanket or gratis, it doesn't matter. You're not getting a cut of the blanket, because it would be too small. I mean, if you think how many tracks they have and you split that up. Sometimes there has been a time whenever I got a check for a blanket situation, but usually you don't get anything.
Well, so let's talk about that for a minute. Let's say that your stuff is in a library, XYZ library, and XYZ library. I mean, there's one that I'm thinking of. I see their name over, like the History Channel, Food TV. They're all over the place, and they're well known for doing blanket deals. So if you're one of 3,000 composers and 10,000 tracks in that library, and they pay, let's say they pay for, Betty's Big Burgers on Food TV, and they pay an annual blanket fee of $10,000 for all you can eat. That means they can use as much of the music from this catalog as they want. So do you not get any back end on that, even though your music is part of that?
We get royalties from ASCAP or BMI.
Yeah,
so you are getting performance.
If the network has a deal with ASCAP and BMI, there are a certain collection of networks that actually don't, and then so they do a direct license type of thing. And a lot of those libraries that are doing those, they don't give you a cut at all. Mm-hmm. So there's also something to think about.
Do you think the industry is eventually going to go that way? I mean, it seems like things are getting kind of worse. I remember many, many years ago, I got a call from somebody at one of the big networks, and this lady said, we will get all of our music through Taxi if you guys will talk your members into doing direct licenses on everything. And I said, lady, as tempting as that sounds, and as much as I would like to do that for our members, they're eventually going to kill me for it. Not to mention a bunch of other people in the industry are probably going to hire hitmen with silencers. But isn't there this quiet movement afoot to all the networks would love to do? I can't speak for all networks. It's an assumption on my part that many networks would like to do direct licensing and not have to pay performance royalties on the back end through ASCAP, BMI, or CSAC. Am I imagining that, or?
Good question. I really don't know. I mean, I've seen that happen.
Hope not.
Yeah, I've seen some bad things happening, but I hope that doesn't start really coming down to that.
Let's talk about the generosity factor, which you brought up in your email. I remember, I think it was 3 years ago, in my opening speech at the rally, I got up there and I said, you know what I love about the people in this ballroom is they're incredibly generous. And these guys have told stories about how it's true. You can be nobody from Ishpeming, Michigan, and bump into these two guys over a burger, in the restaurant at lunch and say, hey, I saw you guys teaching a class, or I saw you on Taxi TV. And do you mind if I join you? And they're liable to say yes. And you get to know them. Hopefully you're not too pushy. And then you bump into them over a beer 4 hours later that night in the bar. And you like this new person from Ishpeming, Michigan. And they timidly and not forcefully say, if you get a chance, could you listen to my music? And they hand you a CD. And on your plane ride back to Jacksonville or in your car on the way home from the rally, you listen and go, wow, this guy's pretty darn good. And eventually the guy follows up with an email and you decide to collaborate on something with this person. So now a relationship has started, virtually identical to what has happened for you two guys. I'm always very proud of our members for being gracious enough to let somebody join them at lunch or have a beer with them, and sure, I'll listen to your CD. That's the beauty of the generosity of our community. Here's where it's coming back to bite us, and I mean us cumulatively, is the membership on the butt. And I've just started to come to this realization relatively recently, which is because of this massive generosity. Oh, what did I do? I mentioned it on one of the shows a couple of weeks ago. I'm very organized. And I did some math about the generosity factor. Let's say that there are 5 of you at the road rally, and each of you turn on one friend to a library owner that you've met, which happens all the time. These guys know each other, they trust each other, and Chuck knows that Steven's not going to make an idiot out of Chuck by doing something stupid, and vice versa. So they turn each other on to a connection in the industry, be it a supervisor or a library owner. Now, each of those 5 guys each turn on 5 others during the course of a year, let's say, and then it branches out geometrically from there, that over 1, 2, 3, 4 generations becomes 3,125 people. And if you added up first generation to the second generation, third, fourth, fifth, it's actually 5 layers deep, but it's 4 subsequent generations. It works out to 3,900 people and change. If it's just geometrically done in 5s, if you turn on 5 guys during the course of a year and you do the same, it becomes 3,900 people. So while you may do orchestral and you do hip hop, and you think, I don't do orchestral, I do hip hop, so they're going to like me at the library. If I turn them on to my friend that does really, A+ orchestral stuff, they're going to say, thanks, Steve, and they're going to remember that, and you've ingrained yourself a little more in the relationship, and you've done a good thing for Chuck. He's done a good thing for you. You've both done a good thing for the respective libraries. But now I get an email recently from somebody that we all know, somebody that at least Chuck and I have known for 10 years probably, and he sent me a thing saying, why doesn't Taxi run more listings for these? And he named 3 or 4 big libraries, and some of them I don't run listings for because their deals are no longer good enough that I feel good about putting those deals under our members' noses. But in many cases, I've reached out to the libraries and they go, oh no, we've got all the orchestral we need, or we've got all the hip hop we need. And so I realize, oh, this generosity thing may have come back to bite everybody on the butt, because if it's 39, if just 5 guys, 5 as I hold up 4 fingers, if 5 guys turn over a period of 5 years, turns out to be 3,900, and now each of those 3,900 guys are potentially competition for you guys. So I'm really torn on the subject, genuinely torn. I don't know. I want to encourage members to share the wealth and spread the contacts. On the other hand, is the reason that when I go to a library owner and say, come on, why don't you run, because they will come to me and run listings looking for songs. But what I commonly hear from them is, oh, we've got all the orchestral we need. And I had lunch Friday with a big library owner, very nice man, very smart man. And he said, look, I've got my go-to guys. I really don't need a whole lot of new instrumental, because when I do, I reach out to my regular guys. I proposed to him in hypothetical. I said, don't you think that that could get stale? He said, well, no, I'm always getting new tracks from those guys. And I said, yeah, but if it's the same guys, everybody's got kind of a sound. You don't stray
Yeah,
that far away from
absolutely.
what you do. I said, so you're not really opening up doors for new guys with fresh sounds. And he goes, well, they bring in other musicians, you know, they bring in a mandolin player, or they bring in a different whatever. I said, don't you think there's the possibility that the stuff grows stale? He goes, yeah, I've never really thought about that so much. Anyway, what do you guys think about this? I don't have an answer of my own, but how do you guys feel about it?
What do you think about us competing with each other, or the
Well,
staleness?
does the generosity factor turn into something that comes back to bite you on the butt as it geometrically grows outward?
I'm not seeing that with me. I mean, I know that's possible with those figures, but it's not anywhere near that.
Yeah.
And like the people I've, you know, helped out, whatever, they haven't really, I don't think, done that and helped other people out as well. If they have, the numbers are very small. So I mean, it's not in the thousands like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I don't know if
No,
you know
it's-
during the course of a year you turn on 5 guys to other opportunities.
It's limited.
Oh, okay, that's good to know. Because I really have no way of knowing.
Mhm.
I know I see it on the forum a lot where people will say, "Oh, I got this placement because so and so turned me on to this library."
Yeah, I see.
I see it pretty frequently on there. We've also actually considered limiting parts of the forum to only current taxi members, because if that generosity is going to be happening, I'd rather have it being
Yeah.
for current taxi members that we tend to find are a cut above, if you will. I hate to sound elitist, but you know, these guys aren't schlubs. They've learned a lot and they've become successful. So I don't want people coming on the forum just to ride your coattails after you've invested, you know, 10 years and you've invested 15 years.
I mean, yeah, I don't think it really does, because I mean, for one, I think, like you said, everybody kind of has their own little sound or whatever. So I think, you know, music supervisors, editors, or whatever, they do kind of have certain guys where they're like, okay, this guy does this kind of thing that they like, and they grab that a lot. So I'm not, because like even if I have somebody else that does really good like hip hop or rock or whatever, and I do really good hip hop or rock or whatever, we still sound differently. So if they want something that sounds like me, they're gonna take my stuff. They want something that sounds like him, they're gonna take his stuff, and there's nothing I can really do about it, you know. So, and also I think it's kind of like a karma thing, like a what goes around comes around type of thing. I think you
that's
just
the
kinda
part of it that
put
I
it out
love.
there. Yeah.
Is that
So yeah, and and you know, like you know, this guy that I'm working on an exercise video with, you know, he you know, contacted me because he saw my name on another site or whatever, and he continually, you know, goes and grabs my stuff because he likes my stuff, you know.
Right.
And you know, if I refer somebody to a library or whatever, and they get their stuff out there, and editors they're gonna pick their stuff because they like their stuff, you know. I mean, for certain things, and like so I don't know. I haven't really run into a problem with it. Chuck definitely, obviously, has not run into a problem with that. So
how do you guys avoid becoming stale? Where how do you guys stay fresh then? Because that's obviously part of the magic that they
Buy
keep
new
coming.
toys, buy new sounds, buy
Yeah.
new
that's one.
commercial instruments, and that just creates a whole other area of creativity and ideas.
That's a great point and an area that I'd like to delve into, which is people who are newer at this think that the solution to the problem is buying a lot of gear. And believe me, I understand the gear lust as much as any of our members do. Yeah, I fly remote control planes and helicopters, and it's hard for me when I see a new one come out, you know, and it's a couple $100.
Yeah.
I just saw one yesterday, you know, it was $185, and I've got the older version of it that doesn't have the camera built into it. The new version has a camera built into it, and you can watch whatever the camera sees on your iPhone, and I'm going, I gotta have that.
Yeah.
And I was hovering over the buy button, and I said,
No, you don't.
I really don't need that. You know, I mean, I can take the $20 camera and stick it with Velcro on the bottom of the one I've already got. Do
Yeah.
I really? And that one without the camera built in was only $35. So
Yeah, he'll find some new software and like send me the links. Say, dude, check this out. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, oh, damn it, why'd you show me that? Now I gotta go buy it.
right.
He's
So-
done that to me too.
Yeah.
But then hypothetically, again, you know, you have this geometric tree of everybody getting similar software. So how do you? I know the answer, but I want you to tell them. How do you keep from you guys sounding the same because you're using the same software?
Just have different. I mean, it might be the same software, but we have whole different ideas
Yeah.
and the way we work, the way we
The way you use that
write.
software.
Yeah, the way we use it.
Yeah.
So I mean, it might.
Different layers, different
Yeah.
articulations.
Yeah, different
Yeah.
mixing tools, different. You know, I like right now. I'm totally obsessed with the Waves. Can I say that?
Yeah.
Okay, the Waves Kramer tape
Yeah.
plug in. Like I put that on freaking everything. Practice, not everything, but a lot. Like my drums, my bass. I love that. I love that tape saturation sound. So, you know,
I
that's
guarantee
one
you,
thing
20 people just Googled that right now. Thank you, Waves. Are you a sponsor of the Road
Yeah.
Rally? No. Hey, tell them how many pieces of software would they sell? Because every year I reach out to I don't want to mention company names, and I can't get these guys to sponsor the Road Rally. Am I nuts in thinking they would clean up at the Road Rally?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you got a couple thousand people there, you know, 65% of whom use, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
35% are acoustic guitar players and probably have no interest, although they could use drums.
Absolutely.
And they could certainly use mixing software and stuff like that. Yeah, you know what?
Yeah, they'll
So
pick
ver-
up the flyer from the booth that they're at, and they'll, they go back home, they'll buy it.
yeah,
I mean,
especially if they're offering like a 20% off Road Rally discount, you know? I mean, I just don't get
How
why
many
the-
folks come? Like 5,000, is it?
No, it's
Three-
like I think we registered last year 2,437 or 2,347, something like that. But
It's a lot.
it's substantial,
Yeah.
and it's a hardcore audience of actual users. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, how much would you say you spend a year on gear, software included?
Not that much, really, to be
Really?
honest. Not that
Let
much.
them know, because I think so many people think gear is the answer. Oh, I'm gonna go wait until I buy a bunch of gear and then join Taxi. Is that not a good idea?
That's I don't think a good idea at all. I mean, I didn't have a whole. I mean, you should have some gear, I think, before you join. Some way to record and get your
Yeah.
ideas down. But I mean, you know, when I started, like, I had basically Reason and a really terrible '80s keyboard that I just used as a MIDI controller. It's not even Velocity. It didn't even have Velocity
Right.
keys. That's how old it was and terrible it was. So I mean, yeah, no, you just got to kind of dive in. But yeah, I remember there was actually a post on the forum one time, this a couple years ago, and I was reading it. Somebody asked, how much do you have invested in your studio? And I was like, okay, I'll take a look. And like, I mean, some of these numbers were blowing me away, and they're not doing this for a living. Yeah, they got like $10, $15, $20, $25,000 worth of studio equipment. I'm like, I couldn't have a $25,000. I don't know what I would
What'd you
do with
play?
$25,000 for a studio. I mean, I guess I
Interesting.
put stuff on the walls. I have no idea. Get autographed Elvis pictures or something. I have no idea. I'm like, how can you be spending this much money on your studio? I don't even have like bass traps or nothing like that. I've got, just the basic like the Rocket 6 KRKs.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
We were at Matt Hurst's house one time for a meeting, and I saw in the corner there had a little keyboard, a couple speakers, and a monitor, and it was really small. I was like, that must be his little play studio. I said, his room must be in like the spare bedroom, must be huge. I said, so Matt, where's your studio? It's right there. I'm like, that's it? Like, damn. I mean, it's the simplest, most smallest studio that you could ever imagine, and we all know how successful Matt Hurd is, and he
Yeah,
does
I mean,
everything right
he's-
there in this tiny little area. in his
He's in
living
that club of guys that are earning what the congressmen earn.
Yeah.
And it's funny, remember last year I had Tim Myers, who makes like what 8 congressmen make
Yeah.
a year. Okay? Just an estimate on my part, but I'm pretty sure he makes some incredibly good money. He gets a lot of songs in really big commercials that play all over the place. And he's got a really nice room. He lives in like a 4 or 5 bedroom, probably a 4-bedroom house about a mile or so from here. And his room did not have that much stuff. You would expect like a wall full of outboard, a guy making that much money, but no, it was very basic. So it is the gear, or the ear, not the gear.
Yeah, and then you got the other thing. I tell you, sometimes I actually when I buy gear, actually, I don't want to, like, not just because it's spending the money, but I don't have to learn it. You know, if
Yeah.
you start buying all this gear, you've got to learn how to use it, and that takes time. And that means if you're spending time learning all this crazy complicated gear, then that's
That's
less
less
time.
music you're gonna
Yeah,
do.
right. 'Cause the most important thing is, you know, writing good melodies
Yeah.
and getting it to sound. I mean, that's the thing. And then, you know, you can use the gear to kind of enhance that. But yeah, that you don't need all that crazy stuff. I mean, just, you know, if you do rock and stuff like that, you know, have, you know, guitar, a bass, have a good drum program, like Logic or Pro Tools or whatever, and that's really all you need.
Are you guys Logic or Pro Tools guys?
I'm a Logic
I'm
guy.
Pro Tools.
Okay. And is it hard trading files back and forth, or
Just
No.
WAV files.
Yeah, we do waves. He'll send me an MP3, or I'll send him an MP3 of something to start with, and then, you know, we'll add stuff on. Then we just do WAV files.
yeah?
Yeah, and I think I don't even like I like leave however I panned it for that I was working on or whatever mix. I just send it like that, and then he just drops it in and maybe tweaks a little. It's a really easy, you know, quick way to. I had one guy try to send me like Logic files one time, and it was just a total freaking mess. Like I
You
couldn't.
can't do that.
Yeah, it like I still haven't been able to do anything with it because it's a total mess. So I would say, yeah, just send WAV files. Don't.
And when you send the
Files.
WAV file, do you include a click at the front just to line it up with? No, you
No.
just drop it in.
However- Starts at
However it
zero.
started, yeah, start at 0. That's how I send it.
Bounce each file out individually and
Wow.
put on
Yeah.
You Send It, or Hightail it's called now.
Yeah, why the hell did they
Yeah,
change the
yeah.
name to
I
Hightail?
don't know.
You send it was so
It's
descriptive.
fine.
Hightail
Yeah.
tells you nothing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hightail it over there. Okay,
Yeah.
some ad agency genius
I mean,
thought
if
of
it ain't
that.
broke, don't fix it. I don't know why
Yeah.
they tried to.
Yeah, why would you change your brand like that, smack in the middle? I mean, I don't
I'm
know.
guessing it was somebody had had you send it copyrighted or registered as a trademark, and then came out of the woodwork years
Yeah,
after.
Yeah,
maybe.
Because
Yeah.
there was no good reason that I
Yeah,
could see to
I
change
can't
that.
think of a good reason at all either.
Let's take some questions from the audience because we've been talking for a long time. All right, you guys, pop up some questions. Copyright.
Copyright.
Um,
Want to talk about copyright?
Michael, ain't time for questions. Ha! I beat you to it. How many forwards per month? I'm not sure. Do you guys even bother? Do you have time to submit anymore? Or are you guys working?
I
on
don't usually actually, but we are gonna. Me and Steve Collin are gonna submit a track that we did recently. We're gonna submit that to like the indie folk pop listing that came out. We'll do that, and we also
Right.
had submitted. Actually, that song was the first time I ever got all 10. This was a song I did with Steve Collin.
Really?
Got forwarded. Yeah, this was a couple months ago. So
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, because I would imagine, I hear this a lot from our more advanced members that have been doing it for a while. They say, you know, I stay part of Taxi to go to the road rally, remain part of the community, stay on top of what the industry's looking for, and if I ever have a down day, I'll pitch to something. But it sounds like guys that are kind of at your level are so busy feeding the beast that you
Yeah.
already know
Yeah.
that you're not, you know.
You just don't
so-
have time to do. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like right now, I've got like 3 or 4 projects that I should be working on, but instead I'm right here.
He brought a
But-
keyboard with him to work. He
Yeah,
hadn't touched it yet.
All they've been doing is eating ramen everywhere they go.
yeah. Eating ramen noodles.
Ever concerned about longevity? That's from Keith LeBrant. That's a great question. C.K. Barlow gave that a +1. So, yeah, do you ever worry that you're going to become irrelevant or you're not going to be able to do this for another 10 years? Is there? I don't
Yeah,
see.
There's always that worry.
Yeah.
But I hope it doesn't come to that. I mean, people saying, oh, the industry's changing. You know, TV's going to go to just streaming on computers so I don't know. But I think right
you're
now, at
talking
least-
about you may
No,
not
you're
be able
going
to
into
get
the
paid
whole-
because they won't be able to track performances.
Yeah.
I was encouraged the other day when I had lunch with the president of that library. He said that all 3 of the American PROs have made great advancements in digital fingerprinting, which seemed like for a while they were really dragging their feet on it because they like their old magical hocus pocus formulas. But he said no. He said that their income has actually gone up. His company's income has gone up because they're tracking so much better now because of fingerprinting. So that's good
And I
because
think-
fingerprinting would apply to even streamed plays over the internet.
I think a lot of our success is from reality shows, and those are, at least right now, don't seem to be going anywhere anytime soon. And they're still making reality shows right and left. So
Funny enough, the library owner I had lunch with the other day said they've almost given up on TV because there are no sync fees and everybody's licensing a ton of music gratis into reality shows, but yet so many of the taxi members that are in my circle of friends that are successful are making, would you say, 70% of your income on reality
A lot
shows?
of it is on reality shows, yeah.
Good.
Make a good chunk from commercials too, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of reality shows.
Do you guys ever take old, ooh, that's hard to read.
I think old material and update it with new sounds.
Oh, that's a great question. Old material and update it with new sounds.
Sometimes.
I've done that.
Yeah, we did that actually with one of my old tracks that I did a long time ago. I think before I joined Taxi, and we updated it. So yeah, we did that every now and then.
For somebody, so many people are scared to jump in with both feet and join Taxi. I think we brushed on that before. They don't feel ready. And they will go out and buy the gear and then get stuck trying to learn the gear and get mired in electronics or in computer programs. I think your point was really well taken about learn melody, learn how to convey an emotion with melody. That's just commentary for me. I
Yeah.
think that is maybe the smartest thing that you could tell anybody watching the show is learn the musical side, how to convey an emotion with melody and rhythm, and don't worry about the gear.
Yeah, that is the most important thing. I mean, really, I'm not that great of a composer. I think the one thing that I am kind of good at is I can come up with or understand a catchy melody,
Yeah.
or what, something that people like. And then if you can do that, once you can do that, then you can kind of beef it up with your your production. But and also another thing to do, what, if you're starting out, do what I did. I'd say start with one genre and get really good at that for a couple reasons. Number one, you'll get really good at something. If you try to be, jack of all trades, you're going to be master of none, right?
Mhm.
So you get really good at one thing, and the other good thing about that is then you're not inundated with a bunch of different kind of gear. Like if you're going to do rock music, right? You got your guitar probably already because you're a guitar player, I'm assuming. And then you get a bass. You just get a cheap. Like my bass is like $150 pawn shop special, whatever. It sounds fantastic, right? So you don't even have to get a good bass. So just get a guitar, a bass, an amp sim, and then a good drum program. And get like Logic or Pro Tools. They all come with their own little mixing tools. And then just learn how to get really good at that. And so that way, you only have a couple pieces of gear that you really have to learn to use. And then once you get good at that, then you can kind of move on to something else. Maybe you want to do hip hop or dance or whatever it is that you want to do.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. But you definitely have to, if you're doing TV music or commercials, you need to be versatile and have multiple genres. Not every single thing. People honestly, I do everything. No, but I mean,
start out with one and then
you
grow.
start. Yeah,
Yeah.
make sure.
Earn the trust of the people that you're regularly pitching to,
Yeah.
And if you're
working
gonna do
with.
multiple genres, you gotta be damn good at all of them.
Yeah.
You know, don't just kind of half-ass do one. You're like, it's gotta all sound great.
I think Matt Hurt was probably the first member I became aware of where he looked and analyzed the marketplace and said there is a need for Latin instrumental stuff that's not being filled. And he became a specialist at doing several subgenres within the Latin instrumental field and became the go-to guy for a lot of those people. Excuse me. And then, hey Matt, do you also do? And he would probably say, yes, I do. And then stay up all night probably learning what the intricacies or idiosyncratic stuff was with the new genre and then make one of those that was B+ or A-, good enough to get it over the doorstep for them, and then became an A+ guy at that genre very quickly.
And when you send stuff out, whether it's directly to a TV show or library, there can be no excuses. You can say, well, the bass part isn't quite right. I'm still working on that. No. When it's sent out, you make sure it's 100% perfect,
Mm-hmm.
and never give an excuse to anyone. Even if you're like handing stuff out at the rally, this is my new stuff, but I'm still no.
I hear that all the time.
No excuses.
I get
Hear that
stuff from people all the
Composers.
time. You guys,
Yeah.
It's not just me, huh?
Yeah, no.
I mean, you can still submit to Taxi because
Yeah.
you get the critiques and you learn from that when they say, okay, you should change this to this. Oh, okay, and you'll fix it. But
Right. But you're talking about if you've
I'm-
got the opportunity to pitch to an industry pro,
Yeah.
don't apologize. I'm waiting to get my new mixer in the mail.
Well,
Yeah.
then do it.
Then
Yeah.
wait, then do it with the mixer.
You make sure it's 100% perfect.
What kind of audio interfaces do you use? How good do they have to be?
Well, he's on Pro Tools, so he's stuck with the digi garbage or whatever.
How about the Blue Robbie side?
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't have a great audio interface either. Mine's the old PreSonus Fire Pod or whatever they think. Yeah, really, I think what's most important is, I mean, first I prefer FireWire, obviously, over USB. Um,
Just faster.
yeah, it's just faster. I don't care what the specs are. USB never gets close to that because it makes the computer do the,
Right.
But anyways, all right. Besides that, what I think is really important though is actually the preamp. I got a Neve preamp, and that made a huge difference, especially in the bass tone. So if you're gonna dump money into something like that,
Preamps are very
I'd dump it into the preamp. To be honest.
I forgot I was at Rob Shirelli's house the other day, and Gage is coming out with a new preamp that Rob designed. And
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because their
I'm
mics are
interested
good.
in that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
and-
use this. My main mic actually is
Really, the Gage
yeah.
87,
Yeah,
what,
love it
ECM
on
87. Yeah.
Banjo, mandolin, ukulele, all sounds great.
Yep.
So.
So I forgot to ask him. I was at his house for like 2 hours the other day and totally forgot to ask him because I wanted to hear one. Because if it's as cost effective and great sounding as the microphones, it'll be a game changer.
Yeah,
I
oh
think.
yeah, big time.
Okay, other questions. Could you talk a bit more about your first few successes and what made them?
Well, I guess my first one was, like I was telling you, it was a taxi listing looking for hip hop. This is like, I don't know, 10, 11 years ago. I'd never done hip hop before, so I saw a listing, I'm like, I could do hip hop. And like, I got some stuff out and I did like however many tracks for the listing. They got forwarded and didn't hear back from it, I guess, but I had those in my catalog. And
Yeah.
when the opportunity came up with MTV, I sent them that, and from there it just blossomed. And I've been doing hip hop. It's been both of ours. Hip hop's like been a huge.
Yeah.
We
genre
get
for
that
us. 'Cause,
all the
there's-
time. Libraries say to us, we can't get enough
Oh.
good hip hop.
You hear all those TV shows
Yeah,
constantly.
it's amazing, and they can't reach out. They won't or don't like to reach out to the guys who are making incredibly authentic hip hop in the hood because they're much more liable to get samples in there that are
Mhm.
going to kill them down the road. So they've had to reach out to guys who are experts in library music to say,
Mhm.
we'll take it from you.
Yeah, and then I sent them to MTV, and I was like, yeah, whatever. And like about 9 months later, I get a check for like $900. I'm like, that was my biggest check to date back then. I was like, $900.
What's the
Cool.
biggest single check either of you guys have ever gotten for one thing?
I mean, for ASCAP payment.
Either for the sync fee or the back end.
Let me start this first because his is going to be bigger. All right, so biggest sync fee I think was a trailer. I think it was like $7,500.
That's a good one.
And my biggest royalty payment I think was this time, and I guess it's gonna end up because my royalties are kind of split. I got a little bit of publishing, mostly the writers for BMI, and then there's also another MRI payment. So that's gonna be I think right under 20,000.
Wow.
So that'd probably be my biggest
For a quarter.
So, yeah, for a quarter. Yeah,
Okay.
for the performance royalties. That
Right.
includes sync fees and stuff like that. But yeah.
Nice.
My
All right,
biggest
Chuck.
single
Yeah.
check,
Yeah.
55,000.
Wow. And that's performance for a quarter.
Mhm.
Wow. Congratulations, you guys. I shouldn't be so amazed because I know both you guys. I know that you work hard at it and stuff, but to think that a single just, I can remember the moment when I first had the idea for Taxi, when it popped into my head, and to think that people can make tens of thousands of dollars in a single 3-month period doing something they never thought they could do.
Mm.
That's pretty, I want to use a swear word, pretty freaking cool. All right, couple more questions and then we're going out to dinner.
Sushi time.
Ask Steve about his experience with rappers.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh, look, that's Matt. Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
That's a funny story.
None good. Really. I've got like one guy that I use. I've been friends with since high school, and he's like the only one that I've really been able to get to work. I don't know. It's really weird, Like I'll contact him and say, hey, look, here's the deal. Here's my credits. This is what's gonna happen. Probably can easily make at least $1,000, right? And they'll blow me off so that they can do their crappy little mixtape that they hawk out of their backpack at the mall parking lot or whatever,
Why is that?
I have no idea what their deal is. Like, I
Standing
don't
on the
know.
boulevard, handing them out. To
Yeah,
the
yeah, or
tourists.
Times Square, or you know, wherever else they think they're going to be a star. I don't know what the deal is, but yeah, I've had almost no good luck whatsoever with rappers. Oh my goodness gracious.
He's done
So that's
some
why I don't.
rants.
That's why I don't do that many hip hop songs actually, because I've got my one guy that I use, and he's really good at certain things, but he can't do everything obviously, because his voice is this way, you know. So his voice might not be good for something else. So, yeah, rappers. Okay, whatever. But female singer songwriters can be just as bad. So.
So singers, I think vocalists in general can
Yeah,
be a
vocalists
pain
are
in
a
the butt
little bit
sometimes.
diva-ish. I
We've
think.
got a huge corporation that's running some vocalist listings with us right now, looking for vocalists because they're so desperate to have vocalists. They didn't actually tell us what they're going to have the vocalists do, but I have a feeling it's probably like station ID packages or something like that. And they're going to pay $300 a track, and people can record it in their home studio. And we've run up against this before where it's very difficult for people that just need vocalists, because a lot of people can sing and a lot of people can sing well, but they're either flaky or their voice is just kind of standard sounding. There's not a unique characteristic to it. You need that. You need a voice that gets your attention, just like when you guys do an instrumental track. There's got to be something about it that's attention getting, that goes, okay, this is a little different and better than the other 25 I just heard. It's really hard to find vocalists that have that unique quality.
I saw some questions about the Neve. Yeah, Neve is hardware, not software. And CK, I believe, asked me if I use that on everything. Yes, I use that on everything that I record with a mic.
Studio Pros has some nice vocalists, if you're not one. That's true. StudioPros.com. I will say that a dear friend of mine, who I go flying remote control planes with, owns Studio Pros.
Saying hi to
And
Matt.
what?
They're all saying hi to Matt.
Oh, and yes, I've actually heard really good things about Studio Pros vocalists as well. Michael, Stephen, Chuck, could you please give one piece of advice for first-time rally goer other than networking? Good question. I'll let you guys stay in the rally hotel.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
actually important. I think I've done that every time, even whenever I didn't make like any money. I still swung that.
Something we were talking about there, we were both talking about, like, don't be desperate. Don't
Yeah.
act like you don't let
Ooh,
Yeah, just
that's
go.
a great
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Just go and hang out.
Yeah,
you know,
have
go
fun.
go to the panels, go to the classes, because you'll learn a lot. I definitely recommend Chiavelli's class.
Oh,
Did
yeah.
you know,
I
did
love
you
that
see
one.
this year we're doing it on the big stage? In
Oh,
the Grand
really?
Ballroom.
Good,
Is
awesome.
he doing 2 classes again?
Yeah, he's going to do one in the 200-seat theater, and he's doing one in the. I twisted his arm, and he is not very happy with me. I got to let you know, because there's so much that can go wrong when you're dealing with that stuff. So we're starting out with an acoustic guitar vocal demo, rather than having it doing. We're not doing any live mics in the ballroom because it'd just be too hard. What if we don't get a good vocal performance? What if we're getting feedback from the monitors? What if the room is too slappy, which that ballroom is? So we're starting out with a pre-existing guitar vocal demo. But one of our members, I think a guy named Mike Watson, sent me an email saying, I'm stuck, man. I've just got all this like open chord 4/4 strummy stuff that I write. I don't know how to take that and make it sound like a modern, cool, contemporary song. I went, wow, you know what? You're not the only guy I've heard that from. So Shirelli is still going in screaming and kicking about this, but we had the 2-hour meeting about the other day, and he's taking out every possible variable he can to make sure it goes well so that it doesn't melt down. But yeah, you don't want to miss that panel because it could melt down in front of 1,000 people in the ballroom. Be really cool. 'Cause Shirelli will
Yeah.
never talk to me again if that happens.
Someone just said, hey, Chuck and Steve, by a friend of ours. I don't know. Can't tell who it was.
The reason we're leaning in is because the computer's fairly far away, so we can get
Yeah.
all of us in the shot. Where to buy great loops? Can tell you one thing: don't lease loops and then submit them for film and TV. Oh, we just had a taxi member that sent in an entire song loop from the Apple library for a commercial thing.
Just an actual loop you drag and dropped?
You got it.
No, that's...
Just put it, just literally, there was nothing changed on it, and luckily we caught it, and it got forwarded. because it was a really good loop. It wasn't just a drum loop; it was a whole, it had
It's a
chords and stuff.
construction
Oh,
kit.
yeah.
It's a construction kit. Yeah, and you took
And the guy was doing it, I think, to test us because he'd never had anything else forwarded. So he's like, okay, I'm going to send you this. Let's see if that got forwarded. Well, it did get past the screener because obviously screeners can't know every friggin' loop
Yeah.
that's out there and everything. Or actually what happened was the member felt guilty and called us up and said, I got to let you know, I submit this thing. It was forwarded to an ad agency in New York.
Ooh.
The biggest ad agency in New York. If that thing had made it into that TV spot, the lawsuits would have been silly because Apple says you cannot use it in its entirety as it
Yeah.
sits.
Yeah.
So don't do stuff like that. Someone just asked me about leasing loops. Glad that you said that. Yeah, don't lease loops because you get in all kinds of trouble. The leases, the legalese on them is really shoddy from what I've heard. I've been shown a couple of examples and went, wow, that's really bad. And you might lease something for demo purposes and then submit it to taxi. It gets picked up and used in a TV show, and now the guy who owns that you leased it from says, hey, you paid me $25 to lease it for demos, and now it's on a TV show, and you're in a courtroom on that one.
Yeah, yeah.
Where do you guys get your loops? Do you have any favorites?
Big Fish is a big one. Producerloops.com. What else is there? East West used to have loops. They don't do that anymore.
I use Loop Masters.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Loop
Loop Masters, Producer Loops. Big Fish is good, but one thing you have to do with Big Fish is you have to write them a letter saying, hey, I'm using this for library music. Then they have to send you a special license back. It's not like a big deal. It's not like you have to fight them over it, but you do need to do that because they have in their contract they have a thing where you can't use their loops in libraries whatsoever. So you have to actually contact them and get a special use license, which I've done before, and it works fine. So.
But that would be tough for an overnighter, right? Like if somebody called you up and said, "Hey, I've got a need that I can't fill. Can you write me something for it?" Can you get a response out of them overnight?
I can't remember how long it took, but it didn't take that long. Overnight might be pushing it, but it was only a day or two, I think. It was
Not
pretty
bad.
quick, so yeah.
Cool. Questions. If you can change a loop, is that cool for submitting to a listing?
You can do what?
If you change a loop, is that cool
Just
for
a loop by itself?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you just can't use, at least to the best of my knowledge, and I'm certainly no legal expert, but to the best of my knowledge, the Apple, just read the license that comes with your Apple stuff or whatever you're using, because, what's true for one may not be true for all. But I would think that, yeah, I mean, they sell these things so that you can modify them, chop them up,
Yeah.
and use them, but they just don't want you to take what they did and use it and make money from it. Of course, everybody's weighing in on what they use. Someone said you can layer over it. Again, you would have to read the legalese with each individual one.
Yeah.
Okay, any more questions? Because this show's been going on for a very long time. I think this one's a record-breaking
Isn't it
launch.
like an hour show?
Usually they end up being about 85 to 90 minutes. We're looking at an hour and
Cool.
47 minutes right now. What percentage of income comes from full compositions versus stems? Interesting
Pretty
question.
much all of it comes from full composition. Stems get used every now and then for me, like the alternate versions where it's like drum and bass. But in general, it's the full thing.
Okay.
I don't do too many alt versions because, like I said, supervisors, they just already have so much music. They don't need to be inundated with this
Yeah.
more and more versions. More, so I'll do alt versions every now and then if it makes
Yeah.
a big difference and really makes it sound different and it's cool. But not too often.
Just another one.
Yeah. See, that's my
Oh, yeah,
assistant.
someone here.
Back in the day when I was assistant engineer, I once had a producer said to me, if you see somebody look over their shoulder like me, the producer, that means I need either a razor blade, a straw, a grease pencil, a cigarette, or a joint. And that was a life-changing moment in learning anticipation. So, yeah, Steve just looked down by his feet for his water, and I grabbed him extra because I could see what he was going for. All right, let's take one last question. How about copy? That's a great question. How about copywriting? Early and often is the question. I get asked that question a lot. For people that are submitting, maybe 2 submissions a week to Taxi, and they're making 1 or 2 instrumental tracks or songs a week and submitting for listings, should they be copywriting that stuff as they do it? How do you guys go about
Once
copywriting?
it's in tangible form, it's copyrighted.
Well,
but
but not registered.
But registered.
Yeah.
I have not registered any of my tracks
Yeah, me
in
either.
years.
Really?
Years. No.
It takes so long. We produce so much, and it's out the door, and usually it's signed with somebody. Then
And we
they
just talked
got.
about that the other day.
Do they
they're
register?
taking
Do the libraries register?
I don't know. I have
Wow.
no idea. To be honest, maybe some of them do, maybe some of
Exclusive
them
ones
don't.
probably do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the exclusive ones definitely.
Especially the ones
would.
that are paying up front, I would imagine. But
Yeah,
I don't
'cause-
really know.
All right. Okay, I think that's about it. All right. Well, you guys, this has been amazing. I'm sure we'll think of about 100 things at dinner that we should have said on the show, but I really can't thank you enough, and just want you both to know how incredibly proud I am of you guys, and grateful that you would take time out of eating at all the ramen restaurants across LA to come and share what you know with our members, and hopefully some non-members in there. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. And these guys will be back. You're coming to the rally, right?
I will be at the rally.
And you'll be at the rally because you live here. If you don't show up, I'm coming over to kick your
No,
butt.
I wouldn't miss that.
All right. I hope all of you guys, seriously, for those of you who've been on the fence, anybody would tell you this who's ever been to a rally. Just join Taxi, even if you don't feel ready yet. Don't worry, you don't need to come with handfuls of music to the rally. It's not like the pearly gates are going to open up. Yes, people do run into each other in hallways and elevators, and crazy deals have happened. Actually, more and more, it seems like every year. But that is not the promise of the road rally. The promise of the road rally is learning, as these guys explained, learning in increments and learning. You get a feel for who knows what, and building your network of support friends, and just learning incrementally. So you got to start somewhere. The road rally's a month from now. It's free. You get 2 tickets for every member.
It's so much fun.
Yeah, it is fun
Good
for
God.
you guys. I'll be sitting while they're downstairs getting hammered, hanging out with friends at night. I'm up in my room at midnight writing out questions for tomorrow's panels. For me, the best part of the road rally is that last 5 minutes when everybody gives the staff a standing ovation, and I wave goodbye and thank everybody for coming. I just want to go curl up
Take
in
a nap.
fetal position somewhere and just like disappear from the world. I'm so glad that it's over and it went well. But you know what? What makes the road rally different from all other conventions are you guys. It is the spirit of the members, and I could never mandate that. I couldn't force that on anybody. You can't make that crap happen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't know why it is. I really don't. But it was that way at the very first rally, and we all took note of the fact that it was this incredibly nice group
Just,
of
just the camaraderie is just
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah. It's you don't
It
find
just-
that in the other ones.
Why is that? You know, I
know.
mean, I go to the ASCAP Expo, which is a similar
Yeah.
size convention.
It just didn't have that warm fuzziness.
Yeah,
that
why
rally
why
has.
is the rally warm and fuzzy? I don't know, but it is. I'm
Absolutely.
glad it is. Well, thank you guys. This has
Thanks
been
for
a lot
having
of fun, and I really appreciate you taking the time. I know that you had many more restaurants to go to. I'm taking you out for a good dinner now, and thank you guys for showing up. We will see you next week on another
Yeah.
exciting episode of Taxi TV Live. Bye-bye.